Welcome to the Free Truth Show.
Welcome to the Free Truth Show on These Changing Times Radio. I'm your host, Patrick Lynch. We are live from Dorset in southern England. We're going to try and bring in a medical expert, Dr. Rebecca Carley, an expert on vaccines, one of the main ways that the bankers are destroying you. Hello, Dr. Carley, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Patrick.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, living in hell, they're pretty much roasting us here in North Carolina. It jumps up to about 100 for, I think, the 30th day in a row. But other than that, I'm continuing to do my work.
It's still hot over there, eh?
Yeah, they're frying us, basically, yeah.
Oh, would you say that was because of weather modification, or is that what you're implying?
Of course. It's all HARP and the chemtrail aspect and all the different things that they're doing, yes.
Thank you for sending me that article about Ireland. Ireland is saying now, I forget her name, Joan Bartok or something.
Burton. Joan Burton. Mm-hmm.
Joan Burton.
Yes.
Joan Paddy Burton is considering it's basically a threat. Take your vaccines, Ireland, or lose your benefits.
And what's really sick in this world of opposite day, I mean, we're living 1984 by George Orwell. She's actually the Minister for Social Protection, and she's threatening families that if they don't allow their children to be inoculated with biological warfare agents, they will lose their benefits, yes.
This article from the Sovereign Independent, Dr. Carley sent me this article. I'll just bring it up. While I'm looking for the article, Dr. Carley, are there any issues that are most pressing for you at the moment? You've been keeping up with how the pharmaceutical industries, the medical mafia as you call them, rightfully so, what are they up to? What's the most concern at the moment for people, and how would you best advise people and warn them?
Well, if I could first, because the Dow Jones Industrial Average just closed down another 630 plus points today. So as all of our economies throughout the globe are being decimated on purpose, and of course this is happening with all the countries in the 17 countries that are involved with the euro, you know, this is all being done on purpose. And I suggest the listeners go to the co-host of my radio show's website, vaccinefraud.com, and under the PDF section, read the document Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, because that actually shows exactly how they're doing it, and gas prices are highly involved. And it's not just being done in the States, but this is a global plan. And if I could, just quickly, I would just like to read something a little to bring the mood up, which is very comical, unfortunately true. If you purchased 1,000 shares of Delta Airlines 1 year ago, $1,000 worth of shares in Delta Airlines 1 year ago, you would have $49 today. If you purchased $1,000 worth of shares in AIG 1 year ago, you would have $33 today. If you purchased $1,000 worth of shares in Lehman Brothers a year ago, you would have $0 today. But if you purchased $1,000 worth of beer, drank all the beer, then turned in the aluminum cans for recycling, you would have received $214. So based on the above, the best current investment plan is to drink heavily and recycle. It's called the 401 keg. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, we have to have a sense of, humor in these dark days, because it's getting really ugly, yeah.
Yeah. So, drink lots of beer and recycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of goes along very well with the the green agenda and dumbing down of being drunk, what the government's doing for you, so that kind of works out. Things work out like that for them, doesn't it?
Well, it's just a humorous thing that somebody sent me, but, you know, unfortunately, while here in the States, there were 3 people arrested because they crossed state lines to get more money from recycling cans and bottles. They were charged with felonies. We have a man that was arrested because his bird feeder was not high enough off the ground, and an 11-year-old girl was taken into custody because she tried to save a woodpecker. As it turns out, the baby woodpecker was protected under the Endangered Species Act. But all this insanity is going on, while these minions that control the world are committing crimes against humanity every day and getting away with it.
Well, Alan, watching through the Matrix, he made a good point that all these stupid laws and acts are to create insanity in people. We have bins. If I put something in the wrong bin, there's a good chance I'll be fined. You know, little by little, kind of incremental insanity technique of war, actually, because it's war on humanity. The other article you sent me, I'm going to get to the Irish article in a minute, theday.com. Before we go on, actually, there's a employee in trial by Lee Howard from theday.Connecticut. But before we take a quick music break, because there's a really bad hiss, your Skype may have interfered with Dr. Carley, but
yes,
almost unbearable. I want everyone to hear what you're going to say. We'll take a music break, and perhaps if you could reboot your computer or something, that might get rid of it.
Okay.
Or restart your Skype. And we'll take a kind of 6-minute break, and we'll be back right after this break.
Okay, so I'll close down Skype and restart it. Call me back, okay?
Okay, and if you do have a number we can call you on, if you type it into the Skype, we'll keep that very private, obviously, in case the Skype is the same when you come back. Okay, see you after the break.
Okay, all righty.
The world. Senator, thank you. Senator Gravel, same question. Other than Iraq, 3 most important enemies to the United States.
We have no important enemies. What we need to do is begin to deal with the rest of the world as equals, and we don't do that. We spend more as a nation on defense than all the rest of the world put together. Who are we afraid of? Who are you afraid of? I mean, it is unbelievable. The military-industrial complex not only controls our government, lock, stock, and barrel, but they control our culture.
Senator Edwards, same question. Other than Iraq,
enough for you.
3 most...
Welcome back to the Free Truth Show on These Changing Times Radio. I am your host, Patrick Lynch, with our special guest, Dr. Rebecca Carley, a world-renowned expert on vaccines. Welcome back, Doctor.
Thank you, Patrick.
Sorry about the technical issues there, and you have a much clearer line now, and the hiss is gone, so that's great. We were talking about the Pfizer article. Just bring it up here quickly. Just give people a quick background on this. Pfizer ignored safety matters. Former employee testifies in trial. Now, Pfizer, am I right, is one of the main pharmaceutical companies?
Indeed.
Plaintiff claims she was fired for raising concerns. This is Hartford, Connecticut. A former Pfizer Incorporated scientist testified Tuesday in U.S. District Court that she was removed from a company-sponsored safety committee after pressing complaints about dangerous conditions in the pharmaceutical firm's Groton Research Laboratories. Molecular biologist Becky McLean of Deep River, who was fired by Pfizer in 2005, what she claims in a federal civil suit was retaliation for pressing safety concerns, said scientists today are handling much more dangerous substances than existed a quarter of a century ago. Basically, these genetically engineered novel viruses, which he referred to as genetic missiles that target specific diseases, have the capability of infecting not only lab workers but the public at large. A portion of her testimony was struck from the record, and just intimidation really from her boss. She had to protect herself, it mentions at the end here, by just following the guy around with the camera, because he basically said, look, it's obvious we're not supposed to talk about these kind of things, and there was a cover-up going on, and she obviously thought it was a bad idea that such diseases could be released into the public. And so your take on that, Dr. Carley?
Well, there are a number of very important issues in this article, which was published on March 17th, 2010. First of all, that was actually part of her job, was to, basically monitor safety issues. So she presented, evidence to the people in charge of the company that she was very concerned about these novel viruses, which I want to underline, she referred to as genetic missiles. Now, the company's claiming they target specific diseases, but obviously they're, targeting our very genetics. And as it turned out, there were lab benches which were used for experiments with these dangerous viruses that were placed next to the desk areas and computers where scientists worked unprotected. So basically, it's self-evident that they were using their own employees as lab rats. They wanted them to be infected. They could be a controlled population. And isn't it interesting that this Judge Vanessa L. Bryant eventually struck her testimony from the record? So the first thing I would do if I was her, is do a search and find out if Judge Bryant owns a stock in Pfizer. Because obviously, I smell a rat here. How can the main charge being made by this individual be struck from the record? It's totally insane. Not to mention the fact that this worker, McLean, actually was exposed to the virus herself that caused her serious health problems and prevented her from working. And so basically, as is usually the case, not only do they try to cover up what they've done, but when she files a civil suit based on the fact that they caused this to happen, the testimony is struck from the record. So this is how it works. This is not unusual, but, I just, thought it was very important to discuss because of the fact that, as I've talked about for years, these drug companies and universities and hospitals and even zoos and other places, veterinary centers, they're playing around with viruses. They're weaponizing everything. And anybody that works for these companies, in my opinion, is putting their life on the line.
Absolutely. I mean, these biolabs are cropping up all over the world now at a phenomenal rate. We know Walking Turtle was talking about Kansas, how there's one there, and they're generally Rockefeller funded. I remember a plane coming down a couple of years ago. I did an article on it on YouTube, and they found vials of swine flu virus, and it all linked back to Rockefeller Foundation, or pharmaceutical companies, which Rockefeller owns most of. I mean, how long has Pfizer been actively doing this sort of stuff? I mean, what are they hoping to achieve from this? I mean, obviously, the way I look at it, I'm sorry, but you may agree, but it just seems that the whole world is being flooded by these pharmaceutical companies, and it's only a matter of time before they let loose a plague or something,
Well, they tried to let loose a plague. They tried to let loose the H1N1 virus, and the way they were trying to let it loose was by convincing people to get injected with it, calling it vaccines. And because of many shows that myself and others did warning the public, their little, scam didn't work. But they're releasing all kinds of stuff. The individual, the scientific researcher by the name of Patrick Jordan that does shows with me every Saturday on OrionTalkRadio.com, he actually has found evidence they've developed a mold that can actually eat the brain out. I mean, this is so evil. If you have a conscience, you can't even comprehend it. There's all kinds of things they are releasing into the public. Obviously, the goal is depopulation. This has nothing to do with health. And that other article that I sent you about the quote-unquote Minister for Social Protection in Ireland coming out with a statement that people have to take their vaccines or, you know, not get their benefits. I mean, there's many links in that article to different clinical trials being done by the WHO, which I refer to as the World Homicide Organization, you know, where they're making vaccinations that will take away fertility, and, of course, not telling people that are injected that that's the intention.
If people have the knowledge of what these companies are doing, actively, openly, I mean, they're eugenicists. I mean, Ted Turner himself is on record. I mean, you were talking about woodpeckers in trees and people being arrested. Ted Turner is on record himself as saying, by the time we've finished with you, you're going to wish you did have the rights of trees. I mean, this is the mentality of the elite. I mean, he's just a puppet himself. He's not even dominant minority. He's not even dominant. He's not even a man. And Bill Gates stands up there like some sort of god of being good to people and helping the planet, when actually he wants everyone to be vaccinated across the planet. Joan Burton. I had a great pleasure in meeting Neil Foster from the Sovereign Independent. He was at my chemtrail rally in Cambridge, and he's a good lad, Scottish lad, good lad, handing out newspapers at the rally, and he's a great little writer actually, because Joan Burton, administrator and facilitator of Irish depopulation. Take your vaccines or have your benefits cut. I'm just going to read some of this. In an article in Friday's Irish Independent, current Minister for Social Protection, Joan Burton, Joan Bloody Burton, probably a relation of Richard or something, outlined plans to link child benefit payments to school attendance and, wait for it, vaccinations. There's an article there from the Irish Independent. This is nothing less than the roll out of a program of forced vaccination of the nation's children, particularly from poor families who rely heavily on such benefits. The theory is that parents should be incentivized to vaccinate their children through the threat that their child benefit will be stopped should they fail to do so. It would now appear that parents are to be given one of options. I like that. One of options. Namely, to either deny the government the right to have their child injected with toxic chemicals, widely proven to be detrimental to their health, and face the consequences of starving your children due to dire poverty, or imply going along with these psychopathic control freaks and killing your own children by allowing the government, as a proxy of big pharmaceutical companies, to carry out their population control program on your family. That to me sounds like despotism, which I'm sure many of the readers of this would agree with. Please do visit the sovereignindependent.com website. Excellent articles there. I mean, who is this woman? You know, who does she think she is? She's obviously getting a handout from some round table group or something. We know they don't have the real power or decision-making powers. So this is just another step forward in ongoing totalitarian genocide. In America, I know they're training the police to strip you naked, inject you with vaccines when you go to the camp if there's a ecological emergency or something, you know, which, I mean, it's just on and on and on, isn't it? We've just got to keep up the pressure and inform people, because they can't do this kind of thing if people know they're bad for you. It's like forcing people to walk in front of a truck. It's like mandatory walking in front of a truck. You're not going to do it. But if you don't know the truck hurts you, like a kid or a dog or something, then, you know, you don't have the knowledge. That's all it is, isn't it? It's just unlocking people's minds.
Well, that's why it's so important to do shows like this. What I try to get, there's two major messages that I have for people. First of all is learn how to say no. You see, they can only do things like this if enough people stand up and or actually get down on their knees and say, yeah, do whatever you want to me and my children as long as I get my check. People have to learn how to say no. The other thing I will say is that I encourage people to think of an inoculation, the shots they're giving you, as the same as if they put a revolver up to your head. It is the same thing. Now, if they came to you and said you can't get your benefits unless you allow us to shoot you in the head with a bullet, would you let them shoot you in the head? The vaccines are the same thing. They are weapons of death. The death doesn't always happen right away. Sometimes you linger on, get a chronic disease, and suffer for months or years, or get cancer, or become infertile, or whatever. But it is a weapon of death just like a gun is.
Exactly. There's something I wanted to get to very quickly. It's something I didn't get to on Thursday's show. I know we're going off a bit we're going off topic a little bit, but we'll get back to the vaccines. But there's a mystery from the Mail Online, mystery of the orange substance invading from skies in one of the world's most remote spots. This is by a Mail on Sunday reporter, obviously expert. You know, Dr. Carley, I talk about chemtrails a lot, and for me, it's, apart from re-engineering the biosphere, it's the greatest threat to humanity, and I concentrate on it a lot. But here it says, a strange orange substance raining down from the skies has left villagers in one of the world's most remote areas mystified. The alien invader was found in rain buckets in Kivalina, an Eskimo community in Alaska, and floating on the harbour, creating 100-foot by 10-foot swathes of what one resident described as a bright neon orange. Now, I'll put the link in the chat here for people to see. I'm sorry I'm not in the chat box this evening, folks, but I generally don't do chat rooms anymore, and I don't do forums, and that's generally it. So no offence, but welcome to the chat room. You're always welcome to chat away there. Getting back to this article, that's the link there. The news attracted all the townspeople keen to get a glimpse, blah, blah, blah. On Thursday it rained, and residents found the orange matter floating on top of the rain buckets they used to collect the drinking water. It was also found on one roof, leading them to believe whatever it was airborne too. Now, you know as well as I do, Dr. Carley, that sometimes the rain produces this kind of a gel, or these kind of polymer type cobwebs, and now we've got some kind of orange goo and coming down in the rain. But residents, the Mail Online reports, have been left mystified, and they've been advised to boil their drinking water and keep children away from the substance. The Coast Guard has already ruled out that the orange material, which some people described as having a semi-solid feel to it, was man-made or a petroleum product. Do you have any instances like that from where you are?
Okay, no, we don't have any orange stuff chilling on the ground, but you
no,
see,
but I mean, the gel and the
No, the officials have denied that it's anything man-made. Well, guess what, people in Alaska? That's one of the areas with the biggest harp, field on the planet, although there's many others.
Yeah.
And what I've realized over the years is that the chemtrails, they're using different combinations, different cocktails in different areas. You know, they're seeing how whatever they do is working out. And obviously, the only way that something can happen like that is either there was a direct release into the water, or they released it from the air and the rain caused it to congeal and become a gel. Those are the only two possibilities.
Yeah.
This is not something from nature, so therefore it has to be man-made. So the ones who are saying it's not man-made are minions working for the government. And that's one of the problems that we have. I have people contact me all the time and tell me, well, I have, water I would like to have evaluated for toxins, or, stuff that's collecting in the rainwater or whatever. Where are you going to send it? All labs are licensed by government. So there's no place to actually have it checked.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought of it myself. I was thinking, okay, how hard can it be? Let's try and find some kind of internet way of checking this goo or my own rainwater, and it's being, you're a doctor, and I'm sure you appreciate that it's not as easy as it looks. So who do we go to exactly?
Well, let me just say that I like to try to uplift people and give them solutions. There may not ever be a way of getting an accurate accounting of what's in this stuff. However, homeopathic remedies can be made of it. Homeopathy is what I use in my protocols to teach people how to detoxify themselves of whatever. And there are machines that you can acquire that you can take any substance and make a homeopathic antidote to it, which will detoxify you of that thing. So that's the good news. You don't even have to know what's in it. You can still develop an antidote.
Yeah. You sent me a couple of, quite a few documentaries that you wanted to mention. I've got one here, Toxic Soup, The Politics of Pollution. It's the politics of pollution as giant corporations manipulate the system to delay environmental reform, endangering the health of communities across the world. Toxic Soup, that's the name of the documentary, shares the stories of everyday folks fighting to keep their air, water and blood free from pollution, and features interviews with Bill Clinton and Morgan Spurlock. There was also another one that you wanted to mention.
First, if I could
talk about Toxic Soup, yeah.
All these DVDs are available on Amazon. I haven't received them all yet, but I've seen them all, and I'm getting the DVDs. But this is not just happening in the States. This is happening everywhere, and it's very important for people to see not only what's actually going on with these, global corporations that are, spreading their poisons everywhere, but how laws are tweaked and loopholes are created to allow them to do so, and how the people who are poisoned there's nothing they can do. There's no court that's going to hear their case. It's nothing that they can do about it except for to suffer and die. And this is very important because it's just so massive. And the Toxic Soup is an excellent DVD. It especially goes into what DuPont is doing and how DuPont is poisoning many areas, creating Superfund sites, and then, basically walking away and saying, oh, there's no problem.
And by the way, DuPont is one of the main Illuminati families.
Of course.
So they've been at it for generations, seeking to control the world, along with the Kennedys and the Collins and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds.
Exactly.
There was an article, we were talking, I did briefly touch on the fracking operations that are causing thousands of earthquakes in Arkansas, from Mike Ludwig. Geologists say fracking wastewater disposal wells in central Arkansas caused an outbreak of thousands of minor earthquakes. The Arkansas Oil and Gas Commission placed a ban on fracking wastewater wells in the area yesterday. Moratorium on well activity has been in place for months as geologists investigated a possible link between fracking activity and the outbreak of more than 1,200 earthquakes that measured lower than 4.7 in magnitude. For those that don't know, fracking is a common term for hydraulic fracturing, a controversial gas drilling method that involves pumping water and chemicals deep underground to break up rock and free natural gas. And there's a new documentary out. And by the way, I'm mentioning all these documentaries. I don't get a penny for it. It's just that if Dr. Carley says this is good, that's
right.
good enough for me.
Nor do I.
I've seen all the trailers.
Go ahead.
I've seen all the trailers, and this one is Gasland, and it mentions Gasland. It's happening all across America and now in Europe and Africa as well. I know in California, for example, they're using explosives on the San Andreas Fault. Really bad idea. Rural landowners wake up one day to find a lucrative offer from a multinational energy conglomerate wanting to lease their property. There's about 6 corporations around the world that own the world's energy now. The reason? In America, the company hopes to tap into a huge natural gas reservoir dubbed the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. Halliburton developed a way to get the gas out of the ground, a hydraulic drilling process called fracking. And suddenly, America finds itself on the precipice of becoming an energy superpower. So, and there's a trailer there.
I'd mention a few things about this. First of all, if people are not aware of a man by the name of Tesla, he developed ways to get energy from the biosphere over 100 years ago. We don't need any of this stuff, okay? But he was put out of business by the bankster J.P. Morgan because they had no way to make money off his technology. It would have been free. So if you don't know about Nikola Tesla, research Nikola Tesla. As far as developing fracking operations on any earthquake faults, I would say that's the same insanos that are putting 4 nuclear power plants in Fukushima in Japan. You know, this is the same kind of mentality we're dealing with. Yeah, we have the country with the most earthquakes. We have an earthquake fault right here. Let's build 4 nuclear plants on top of it. I mean, these people are insane, okay? And I took some notes, actually, on this DVD, Gasoline, which is very powerful. It actually shows people that have been foolish enough to give contracts to these companies to allow fracking on their property, and next thing they know, they turn on their water faucet and light a match, and the water turns on fire. It's very dramatic.
Yeah.
But let me just also say that as far as in the States, and this goes to show how corrupt our politicians are, as if there was any question, in 2005 there was an energy bill pushed through Congress by one of the most evil persons on the face of the planet by the name of Dick Cheney, which actually exempted oil and gas companies from the Safe Drinking Water Act, Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, and the Superfund Law, and about 12 other regulations that were supposed to protect the people and the earth from pollution. So this is what they do. They make their fake laws, and then they develop their loopholes to allow their cronies to get out of it. And as it turns out, this fracturing, nicknamed fracking, uses pumps that deliver water, 1 to 7 million gallons of water in each well, along with 596 chemicals that are, injected into the earth. And I've actually seen commercials on television, where they're trying to push this technique, and they have little cartoons where they show that they're drilling way below the water reservoirs, trying to make people think, oh, okay, then it's safe. It's below the water reservoirs. No, people, when you're putting 1 to 7 million gallons of water into each well, it's going to bubble up, and it's going to go into your well, and it's going to come out your faucet, and you're going to be drinking it and setting it on fire.
Well, we're getting behavioral inspections now at airports, behavioral inspections, detections, the ongoing surveillance grid, the dehumanization of people in public places is ongoing, and people are being trained to accept it. And as Alan Watt points out, people are very adaptable. They adapt very quickly. We shouldn't be accepting any of this. The pat-downs, the general taking shoes off. It starts with taking shoes off and ends up with a bullet in the back of your head. And if you know your history, it's the way it is. The TSA have employed these mugs with half a brain, and a lot of them are perverts half the time, it turns out, to stand there in front of these radiation machines, and that's exactly what they are. I mean, Walking Turtle made a reference to, if you're going to take a vaccine, you might as well walk into the oven of a Nazi camp. It's the same thing, or walk in front of a truck. It's the same thing. If you walk through these radiation machines, these so-called X-ray machines, that does alter your DNA, it's the same as walking into an oven or walking in front of a truck. And none of the experts, so-called experts, have come out and said, oh, yes, actually, I think you've got a point here. Doctors are refusing to go through and missing their flights, and they're not able to take flights. Is there any sign of the TSA giving way on this?
Yeah, I will never fly again because basically, even though they say that you can have one of these perverts pat you down if you refuse to go through the TSA scanners, I know of a number of people who have refused and they still send them through the scanners anyways. So they basically put you in a position where either you can't fly or you got to go through the scanners. So this idea that you can elect to be patted down is a con job to begin with. But let me just say there is universal justice because I read an article recently that there's a huge number of TSA employees getting cancer in the Boston airport. So it's kind of funny how that works out, that they've sold their soul for cash and now they're going to actually have a problem because of what they're forcing the other people to do. But I just wanted to mention one of the most outrageous situations that I've heard of. Here in the States, there was a 95-year-old woman with terminal cancer who was in a wheelchair with diapers on, and she was basically going home to die so she could be buried wherever she, grew up. And these monsters made her take her diapers off and patted her down, before they would allow her on the plane. This is how sick these people are.
Yeah, I saw that article about the workers suffering with miscarriages. The Sovereign Independent covered that in an article, that they're getting miscarriages as well. I mean, that's an immediate health effect that's very obvious. So if you're considering going on holiday and you know that the scanners at Heathrow Airport, for example, if you're a woman and you're pregnant, there's a very strong chance that you may lose your baby if you walk through this. I mean, do you just have to walk through once if you're pregnant, or does it take like 10 times, or what?
Well, it's totally insane. And especially if that pregnant woman has been, stupid enough to take the flu vaccine while pregnant. I mean, it's always the big picture, as I talk about in my diagrams on reversingvaccineinduceddiseases.com. All of these things, every single thing they're doing is being weaponized, is killing us off, and the more things that you don't know about that you allow to be done to yourself, the sicker you're going to be and the faster you're going to die.
There's another documentary you wanted me to mention. It is related to health generally. So we've got the TSA, worldwide, these scanners that people have to walk through. Well, they don't have to walk through, by the way. There's no law saying you have to do it. It's policy, that's it. And they can stop you getting on the plane. I'd rather not get on the plane, to be honest. And if you look at what Karl Marx said 100 years ago, banning private property, banning private transport, people ask me, well, look, if it's so bad for your health walking through these scanners, then surely the airlines are going to lose money, aren't they? They don't care. They don't want people traveling anymore. It'll be if we let these New World Order freaks take total control of our global infrastructure, then you won't be able to travel more than a few hundred yards from your house in the future without a pass. They're training people to just stop traveling. Only that will be for the elite only. And again, another health issue. Yeah, please carry on.
Let me just say, because they have their private jets, and they don't have to go through scanners to get on their private jets. But you see, unfortunately, Patrick, only people in the know are going to stop traveling. The rest of the slave work units are going to keep on doing it because they're going to believe, oh, it must be safe. You know, the government has approved this, so they're going to keep doing it. And they're going to get cancer and all these things, and if they haven't done their research, they're not going to put two and two together.
If people don't want to be dumbed down slaves and they want to get some knowledge and be a bit more savvy and how to stay alive a bit longer, we're talking about mind-controlled technology through the television, or tell-lie vision, as you say.
Yeah.
Walking Turtle in Kansas here, what about medical personnel or X-ray techs? They get radiation all the time. Frequent flyers are exposed to radiation at a higher rate too. The scanners are just another vector. Yet there are no concerns for the amount of previous radiation exposure of the people who fly. There's no safe low dose, is there really?
Well, I'm very glad you brought that up. I was an X-ray technician for 5 years before I went to medical school. And I still receive questionnaires from the American Radiologic Society. They do studies every few years to find out how many people have been diagnosed with cancer. What you're saying is very important. There is no such thing as a safe dose of radiation, because every X-ray you get, be it a dental X-ray, a medical X-ray, going through a TSA scanner, being exposed to radiation that's flying over here from Fukushima, whatever, it's cumulative. Your body builds it up. There is no way to excrete it except from homeopathy. So once again, let me say there are ways you can detoxify yourself. And because when I was an X-ray technician, we didn't have those fancy contraptions to hold children when they were being X-rays, we actually had to hold them ourselves. I did a radiation detox, and it was truly amazing. In the middle of winter, I got what looked like a severe sunburn on both of my shoulders, and I realized that was the radiation coming out of me. So I like to try to give people the good news, but if anybody tells you that radiation is safe, you know that they're a minion. And in fact, one of the amazing things to me, Patrick, is as this whole Fukushima thing was unwinding, and they're telling everybody the dangers, you're going to get cancer, yet you still have these slave work units going to get radiation treatment for their cancer. Radiation causes cancer. If you have cancer, why would you get more radiation? It's insane. But this is what they're doing to the public. They've totally mind-controlled them. You know, if somebody puts on a white coat and has a stethoscope around their neck, they figure, oh, okay, they must know what they're talking about, and they'll do whatever they say in most cases. And these people are going to die.
VaccineFraud.com is one of your websites. There's also drcarley.com and reducing vaccine
diseases.
Yeah.
Reversing
vaccine-induced diseases.com.
Right. VaccineFraud.com is the website of the co-host of my radio show on OrionTalkRadio.com every Saturday. And I strongly suggest, if you haven't seen it yet, Patrick, you have to click on the PDF, download that Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. It basically explains their silent weapons they're using for their quiet wars to do everything that's happening right now, especially destroy the economy. Patrick Jordan has also written 3 excellent books on vaccines, which are available on his Cafe Press link. And we've also jointly come up with a comic book. It's pretty hilarious, actually, trying to use comedy, once again, to wake people up. It's called Dr. Proboscis. It's available on either one of our Cafe Press links. And I encourage people to get this comic book. It's very cheap. And you can show it to people because by using comics, including showing a person having an IV bag of germs, into their vein, and just being, inoculated 24/7, because the premises of that comic, if one shot's good and 10 shots are better, then having an IV bag infuse you with viruses and bacteria 24/7, that's got to be even more better. And if you bring things to the insane level, sometimes people actually get it.
Exactly right. I didn't mention the Full Signal. Full Signal documentary. We're absolutely plastered with tetra waves, cell phone towers, mobile phone towers here in England. There's literally every few hundred yards. There's a massive one that way, a massive one on the horizon over there. Full Signal. People ought to be aware of cell phone brain tumour damage just from the phones to your ear themselves. That's where the brain tumours are, where you hold your phone, by the way. I don't use mobile phones at all now. I didn't for a long time anyway. I don't miss it. Snail mail, home phone, whatever. I just don't want a brain tumour. But the actual pulses of electromagnetic energy coming from these towers is outrageous. Since 1997...
If I could comment on that. Okay, this was a serendipity thing. I just happened to see that.
I was just going to read out the Full Signal piece.
Go ahead.
Okay, since 1997 and the onset of GSM telephony, more and more cellular antennas have been popping up in neighbourhoods all around the world to support an ever-growing number of cell phone users. In fact, they have become so prolific in parts of the world that they disappear into the landscape with the same subtlety as cars on the street. Full Signal talks to scientists around the world, this is a documentary, who are researching the health effects related to cellular technology, to veteran journalists who have called attention to the issue for decades, to activists who are fighting to regulate the placement of antennas, and to lawyers and lawmakers who represent the people wanting those antennas regulated. Filmed in 10 counties and 6 US states, Full Signal examines the contradiction between health and finance, one of the many ironies of the fight to regulate antenna placement. Your comments on the Tetra Towers, please, Dr. Carley.
Okay, I just happened to catch this today on this network we have here, Free Speech TV, which has a number of excellent documentaries. Matter of fact, all the documentaries I've mentioned I learned about from Free Speech TV. I don't know if it's available in your neck of the woods. But one of the most amazing things I learned from this excellent documentary is one of the ways that they're sneaking these cell towers into communities is by basically paying off people like pastors in churches, landlords that have different kinds of apartment buildings or whatever, to allow them to contract whatever, their church rooftop, the window areas of their apartment complexes, whatever. They pay them thousands of dollars a month to allow them to put their cell phone towers wherever. And in fact, these are actually emitting microwaves, which are frying your brain. So having a cell phone tower near you is much worse than having a cell phone itself. But if you have both, forget it. And they actually showed on this DVD different churches allowing their steeples to be taken apart. They stick the cell phone tower inside the steeple and then put the steeple back together again. Now imagine the evil of this. Anybody that goes to that church, they're actually having their brains fried as they're going to the church, and the pastors are allowing this because they're getting thousands of dollars a month. And one of the other amazing things I learned from watching this DVD was that there's many people trying to find ways to overcome this insanity because, once again, at least here in the States, the way this is happening is that the federal government has passed laws for the telecommunications industry that the states and the local, municipalities can have no say where towers are built. It's all a federal thing. If the companies apply to the federal government for permission, stuff a few million in their pockets, they get permission. So what one of the innovators do, because, see, we have a lot of people out there that do have brain cells that are working, and they interviewed this one woman who is fighting this on the basis of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. As it turns out, there are actually laws protecting endangered birds. So she's using that act, because the humans have no protection, but the birds do. So she has filed suit based on this Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and we'll see where that goes. So people are coming up with their own loopholes to try to get out of this insanity. But, all these things should be waking the people up because, as you said, I forget the number of the people on the earth now that have cell phones, but it's over a half. I mean, we're talking billions of people. So obviously they have to have towers to transmit those signals.
There's a good website in England, based in England, called tetrawatch.net. Tetrawatch.net, Tetra. Dr. Carley, we do have another guest waiting. It's been a great pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for all your information. And
thank you, Patrick. Anytime.
We'll see you again soon, Dr. Carley. God bless you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Dr. Rebecca Carley. We have, hopefully, on the line, Sylvain Henry pretty soon. We're going to take a quick music break. This is NZ Trillion.
Welcome to the Free Truth Show. Attempting to break through all the lies and deception of the mass media, which is owned and controlled by the very elite that have engineered this global financial takedown. The Free Truth Show is dedicated to exposing the New World Order eugenicist and depopulation agenda. Never before in the history of the world have the people been so awake. It's time for you to stand up too. Welcome to the Free Truth Show.